Hi everyone, it is day one of March of the Writers. So March of the Writers was created by JD Estrada. I will link his channel down below. It basically is a video series about writers, what you write, your inspirations, book covers, other things like that. So day one is basically introducing ourselves, where are we from, what do we write, what do we do. So my name is Stephanie. In the everyday mundane world, I'm a cashier. Nothing super exciting about my job, but pays bills. Um, I'm a mom to a son named Nathaniel. He actually has his own channel as well, which I'll link that down below too, so you can go check out Nate's channel. I'm also a cat mom. My cat is, I think about almost 13 years old now, and his name is Spirit. He's an all-white cat with blue eyes. And that was my mom's cat that just sneezed. His name was Jasper. So, yeah, live with my family and cats. Um, some random things I like, outside of books and writing are rain and rainstorms. I love nature. I love cats, obviously. One of my favorite, like, zoo farm-ish animals is llamas. I also like alpacas. I like the colors green and purple. I like tulips. So that's just some random things. Um, as for bookish things, my favorite series as of right now is The Hunger Games. I also liked Three Dark Crowns and The Lunar Chronicles. Um, I like The Giver. The series is good, but the first book is definitely the best. So I had some bookish things. Some writing things. I write under the name S.E. Dickinson. I can't remember if I mentioned that yet, but S.E. Dickinson is my pen name. I have written now, they're very small. Mind you, when I say I've written, they're very small books, only going up to like 140 pages. But I've written now, I think, 5 or 6 books. So I have 2 short story collections. One is called Another World Called Ours. And I wrote that when I was very new to self-publishing and stuff. So if you come across it, there will probably be a few mistakes. I was just very anxious to get it out, and I'm a much better editor now, and I'm a lot more patient now. I've learned things. But that one is more, I think, I would say on the fantasy side of things. Like there's a story about a group of friends that bring cupcakes to life. There's also one about a married wizard couple who gets a magic llama. Like I said, I like llamas. So yeah, that one's a little bit more fantasy-ish. I Don't Know These Shadows, which was published like maybe a couple years ago, that is more on the horror side. So you have ghosts and doppelgangers and zombies in that one. So those are my 2 short story collections. The first book I published, though, was a poetry book called Only Children Dream, and that was a lot of poetry written in my teenage years um, and some of my adult years during some troubled times in my life. Not everything is sad in there. There's some fun haikus and limericks and stuff in there, but a lot of it was about, you know, um, depression and just going through a lot of things. But again, there's still some happy things in there. I also thought at that time that I needed to rhyme everything. So when I look back, some of the rhyming feels a little forced. But again, a lot of it was written when I was a teenager. Some of it maybe even a little bit before that. Obviously some of it was rewritten, but a lot of it's from childhood, especially like the more fun poems. So just keep that in mind when you read that one. If the poetry sounds forced, it's in some ways because it kind of was. One that I published again a couple years ago now, because it was before I Don't Know These Shadows, was The Silly Things We Talked About. And this one does have rhyming poetry in it, but it wasn't forced. If I had rhyming poetry, it was because it was a certain structured poem, like a sonnet or something, or a limerick, that kind of thing. But that one, a lot of it was written when I was dealing with homelessness and a lot of other things going on. So a lot of them are about, changes in life, and just trying to hold on to hope, and, being hopeful, and struggles and all that other stuff. There's still stuff about, hopes, aspirations, I don't want to repeat myself, but I'm just trying to find the words here. It's very late, so I'm sorry if I do. Um, but that one is probably so far my favorite poetry book I did, or set of poems, just because it just feels a little bit more authentic and stuff. And then I wrote the first book in the Tales of Shadow Oak series, called Jackalope Fangs. I'm working on the second book now. But Jackalope Fangs is about a woman named Guinevere who has just broken up with her girlfriend, and she moves back home with her parents. Her mother is a writer, and her mom writes like horror and sort of like mythology based stuff, but mostly like stuff for adults, like I said, horror and stuff. And one of her mom's favorite things is jackalopes, and she has never written about jackalopes in like a story because they always seem kind of whimsical and more for children. But lately she has been having nightmares about jackalopes, or dreams. And these jackalopes are not even just regular jackalopes, they have fangs. And then Gwen is starting to see jackalopes everywhere, and she thinks it's just her mom's influence. They go on a camping trip to, kind of clear their minds and everything, right? Because they think work, everything, they're just stressed. And in the middle of the night, the mom ends up disappearing, and they go looking for her, and her father, and her brother come across a jackalope, and they follow it essentially into another world. So that is Jackalope Fangs. And then I just published a chapbook called Life, Nature, and Other Whimsical Things. So this is the first time I put in nonfiction into something. I mean, I guess in some ways you can say some poetry is nonfiction, right? Especially if it's based upon experiences in life. But this was the first time I was telling like narrative, story-like things, well, that is story-like narrative. What am I saying? I'm being redundant here. But yeah, you get my point. None of the stories in there are fiction. They're all based upon real personal things, whether it's something that happened or just like a thought, an idea. Yeah, it's the first time that I had done that. And then, of course, there is artwork in there, and there's some haikus, some longer form poetry. So, yeah, so far, that I believe is everything that I have out right now. And I am currently working, like I said, on the second book in the Tales of Shadow Oaks. This one is going to be about giants. And I am also working on a fantasy novel. It's going to be a YA fantasy novel about 4 sisters who possess powers over both air and water, and things that they have to deal with. So, almost 10 minutes long, this video. Oh my god. Anyways, yep. I look forward to doing the rest of these videos, and I hope you enjoy watching them. Bye bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.